Hello. NCUA's Critical Infrastructure Division and the Office of Examination and Insurance welcomes you to this webinar introducing the new NCUA application, the Automated Cybersecurity Evaluation Toolbox, ACET. The NCUA's Automated Cybersecurity Evaluation Toolbox, or the Toolbox, is a downloadable application developed by the NCUA in conjunction with Idaho National Labs INL and contains the NCUA ACET Maturity Assessment. The ACET Maturity Assessment mirrors the Federal Financial Institution Examination Council's FFIEC Cybersecurity Assessment Tool, CAT, and is designed to assist credit unions with the identification of cybersecurity risk and assist them in determining their cybersecurity preparedness. The assessment provides a framework for analyzing cybersecurity vulnerabilities associated with an organization's overall control system and information technology architecture, as well as a means for the user to document a process for identifying cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Additionally, the assessment offers suggested methods to evaluate options for improvement based on existing standards and recommended practices. The installation guide, provided separately, includes information regarding system requirements, installation procedures, and other related information to complete the toolbox setup on your workstation. It's also integrated into the toolbox and can be found in the Help section. It is recommended that users meet the minimum system hardware and software requirements before installing the toolbox. The Toolbox Installation Guide is accessible for download with the toolbox. Please be sure to read the installation guide before attempting to install the application. Once installation has completed, open the application by clicking on the ACET icon on your desktop to open the application. Once the application has opened in a browser window, users will be prompted to either start a new assessment or import an existing assessment. Before proceeding, take note of the various options on this page: the ACET homepage, the Tools drop-down, the Resource Library, the Help, and User Profile. The ACET Home button opens the user's landing page. The Tools button opens the Tools menu and provides options outside the assessment process. The Resource Library opens the Resource Library in a new tab and contains a variety of standards, reports, templates, white papers, plans, and other cybersecurity-related documents. The Help button opens the Help menu and provides access to help documentation and user guides for the tool. Additionally, this application has taken into consideration Section 508 of the U.S. Rehabilitation Act 29 U.S. Code 794D and has been developed to support users with accessibility requirements. The accessibility document and keyboard shortcuts are also in this Help section. The User Profile button opens the User Profile menu and will display the user name, provides access to view user profile information and their assessments. To begin a new assessment, click on the Start a New Assessment. Once you begin the assessment, you'll notice the assessment is broken down into 3 distinct sections: Prepare, Assessment, and Results. The Prepare tab and menu allows quick access to the Assessment Prepare screen. The Assessment tab and menu allows quick access to the assessment statements and categories. The Results tab and menu allows quick access to the maturity assessment results and reports. When you clicked New Assessment, the application starts the workflow process and automatically brings you to the assessment configuration screen under Prepare. In this section, you'll need to enter the credit union name, city, state, charter number, and current asset size. On the same page, towards the bottom, you'll also notice assessment options. The assessment options will default to maturity model with ACET only selected below it. Leave these two items checked and continue with the assessment by clicking Next. After clicking Next, you're presented with the Assessment Information screen. This screen displays the assessment owner and provides an opportunity to add or view additional users through the Contacts panel. Click Next at the bottom of the page and move to the Inherent Risk Profiles screen. The IRP, or the Inherent Risk Profile, has 5 risk areas across 5 categories. It is measured on a scale from least risk to most risk in this order. Least, very limited use of technology. Minimal, limited complexity in terms of the technology it uses. Moderate, uses technology that may be somewhat complex in terms of volume and sophistication. Significant, uses complex technology in terms of scope and sophistication. Most, uses extremely complex technology to deliver myriad products and services. The Inherent Risk Profile section spans 5 categories and requires responses to 39 questions. To complete each question, select an appropriate response from 1 to 5 for all 39 questions. Additional resources are provided for each question. The risk description icon provides additional clarification of the question. The next icon provides strategies on where the response may be found, and the last icon provides an option to add comments to the question. When you've completed all 39 questions, click Next to move on to the Inherent Risk Profile Summary page. The Inherent Risk Summary page displays the inherent risk levels for the questions answered on the previous Inherent Risk Profiles page. This page displays the inherent risk levels for each of the 5 categories, as well as a total for each of the risk level. Within the total row, the column with the highest total represents that institution's overall inherent risk level. The application will automatically determine the cybersecurity maturity range, which is a minimum and a maximum your institution is expected to operate based on the risk maturity relationship. The table demonstrates the relationship of the inherent risk level and expected cybersecurity maturity range. For example, an institution with an overall inherent risk level of least would be expected at a minimum to have a maturity level of baseline and a maximum level of evolving maturity, whereas an institution with an overall inherent risk level of significant would be expected at a minimum to achieve an intermediate maturity level and a maximum of innovative. There is an option to bypass the inherent risk level results. Using the Override Risk Level drop-down, you have the capability to override the results from the inherent risk profile. For example, your institution inherent risk profile results may have been 1 or least. However, management or the board may feel a risk level of least is not sufficient, that a higher range of cybersecurity maturity may be more appropriate to the institution's size and complexity. In this example, to raise the level of inherent risk and cybersecurity maturity range, you may choose to override least and select minimal. Anytime the risk level is overridden, an explanation is required. Once satisfied with the inherent risk profile risk level, click Next to move on to the Statement screen on the Assessment tab. When you're first presented with the Statement screen, you'll be presented with the following: Cybersecurity Maturity Bar, Domain Header, Component Header, Assessment Factor Header, and Statement Text. The Cybersecurity Maturity Level bar displays the range of maturity that has been calculated by completing the inherent risk profile. The highlighted maturity level represents the minimum expected maturity level, and the maturity levels in bold italics represent the remaining range. The application will default to only displaying the statements associated with the calculated minimum expected maturity level. In this example, the inherent risk is least, representing a cybersecurity maturity range from baseline to evolving. However, only the baseline statements will automatically be displayed. In our previous example, the institution had an inherent risk level of least, which has a cybersecurity maturity range between baseline and evolving, with baseline as the minimal level of cybersecurity to be met. Only baseline statements will be displayed. The minimum, in this case, baseline statements are required to be completed. An institution may choose to achieve higher than the minimum in its maturity range. In this case, an institution can select an additional maturity level on the maturity level bar in each of the domains. To continue with our example, an institution with an inherent risk level of least would like to assess itself against evolving statements as well. The institution clicks on Evolving on the Cybersecurity Maturity bar in each domain, and all evolving statements will also display and now be required to be completed. Now that we completed the inherent risk profile, review the inherent risk summary to find this institution has an inherent risk of least and a cybersecurity maturity range between baseline and evolving. It's time to complete the statements. Starting at the top right, we see the Collapse All, Expand All filter. Clicking on Expand All will display minimum required statements for every assessment factor of the maturity range. The maturity label displays each statement's associated cybersecurity maturity level. The answer buttons reflect the options you have for answering each statement. Yes answers are green. No answers are red. Not applicable answers are blue. The not applicable is used when the question does not apply to the system or facility. It should be used with discretion and has the effect of removing the question from consideration. Any question marked as not applicable will not show up in the online analysis or reports as a gap or missed answer, nor will they count as a positive answer. The Yes label stands for Yes with compensating control and is used when an alternate or different method is being used to address the concern in the question. Compensating controls are a consideration when an entity cannot meet a requirement. If you need further information to respond to the statement icons provide additional options and resources. The Exam Step button gives additional details into how to ensure that the statement is being met. The Supplemental button provides more detailed information for each statement. The Comments button allows you to enter comments related to a statement. Comments button displays a red dot over the comments icon when the statement has comments. The References button displays all the associated standards associated with the assessment question. When you click on those references, the selected standard will be displayed for reference. The Observations button allows the user to associate observations with a statement. The observation button displays a red dot over the observation icon. After completing all the required minimum statements in this example baseline, you'll notice that statement progress wheels should all be checked, indicating all required statements have been answered. Once all statements have been answered, click Next to move on to the Results tab. The Maturity Results summarizes the results of each domain. The domain statements are answered within the Statements tab. Within each domain are assessment factors and contributing components. Under each component, there are declarative statements describing an activity that supports the assessment factor at that level of maturity. Each maturity level includes a set of declarative statements that describe how the behaviors, practices, and processes of an institution consistently produce the desired outcomes. The assessment starts at the baseline maturity level and progresses to the highest maturity, the innovative level. An item marked as incomplete has not been completely answered. An item that has been fully answered but does not meet the baseline level is designated ad hoc. Once you've reviewed the maturity results page, to ensure all components are not marked incomplete, click Next to move to the ACET dashboard screen. The dashboard's primary functions are to summarize the information input from the assessment inherent risk profile. The first section, List, summarizes the demographics information. The Inherent Risk Profile section simply repeats the information found in the Inherent Risk Summary page. The Cybersecurity Maturity section summarizes the maturity levels. If required statements have not been answered, maturity levels in those areas will show as incomplete. Once you have reviewed the ACET dashboard, click Next to move to the Results section of the assessment. The Results section houses the various reports available for review. To generate a report, click on the specific report link on the report screen. The report will open in a new tab. Please note, some reports aren't available if you haven't completed your assessment. Completion is answering all statements within your target level. In addition to the ACET maturity assessment, the toolbox also provides access to other types of assessments and functionalities. These include a choice between several maturity models, the ability to be assessed against numerous industry standards, as well as access to draw your own network diagrams. In order to access the other maturity models, navigate to the Maturity Models tab. If ACET Only is checked, unselect ACET Only and select from the list of other available maturity models. The options include Capability Maturity Model Certification, CMMC, External Dependency Management Assessment, EDM, and Ransomware Readiness Assessment, RRA. Based on recent news and events, ransomware attacks continue to rise as a top cyber threat, impacting both private sector businesses as well as government agencies. A ransomware attack is a type of cyber attack that is aimed at encrypting an organization's data and extorting payment to restore access to the data or other blackmail scheme. The RRA module provides users with a set of recommendations, mitigations, and practices targeted at helping them defend their organization's network and systems. By selecting Standard under the Assessment Configuration tab, users will be presented with a selection of questions based on industry-recognized best practices and standards. Currently, the tool contains 48 different best practices and standards. Each standard has been decomposed into simple English questions. The exact language of the standard is also available if needed. In closing, for institutions using the toolbox, management will be able to enhance their oversight and management of the institution's cybersecurity by doing the following: identifying factors contributing to and determining the institution's overall cyber risk, assessing the institution's cybersecurity preparedness, evaluating whether the institution's cybersecurity preparedness is aligned with its risk, determining risk management practices and controls that are needed or need enhancement and actions to be taken to achieve the desired state, and informing risk management strategies. Thank you. This concludes your introduction to the new NCUA ACET Automated Cybersecurity Evaluation Toolbox, or the Toolbox.